It is a cold morning here in New Mexico. It's about 7:30 and it's 30 degrees outside. I know that's not cold for any of you northern folks, but for down here, it's pretty chilly. Frost on the windows and all of that good stuff. So great time to be in the garage. Got the heater going, got the dog in here, just enjoying my morning. What we're gonna do today is we're going to finish these chisels that I got. So if you didn't watch the last video, my wife got me a set of Stanley 750 chisels for Christmas, and they're fantastic chisels. If you're gonna do any kind of woodworking in the future, or you do any now and you don't have a set of proper chisels, then this is a great set to get into. You can buy the 4-pack for about 80 bucks. And I know it sounds a little bit expensive, but it's really worth it to have some quality chisels. And so we're going to go over kind of how to finish those. So there's two things you got to worry about whenever you get these in the mail. Number one, the wood handle that comes with them has a lacquer over it, has a finish on it. And the reason it has a finish is, sorry, my dog's messing with the tripod. The reason it has a finish is they ship these things thousands of miles, sometimes even overseas. And if they didn't finish them, then they might split, they might have imperfections, people would handle them, they get the oils from their hands onto the wood, so they finish it so it looks like a quality product whenever it arrives. Also, there's a lacquer on the metal, and I've had just a beast of a time getting the lacquer off, and I'll show you kind of the process of that here in a minute. But again, they do that for shipping purposes, and so I don't fault them for doing it, but it is kind of a hassle whenever you have to work on your chisels before you can work with your chisels. And so we're going to be doing that today. I will say there are some people online on some forums that say don't worry about the lacquer on the metal, just go ahead and sharpen them and start working with them. You can do that. The problem is when you sharpen those, that lacquer is going to rub off onto whatever stone that you're using, and so it potentially could gum up your stones. I sharpen with Arkansas stones as well as diamond plated stones, and all of my stuff is pretty expensive, and so I don't want to gum those up with lacquer that come from the factory. So I'm going to try to get those off today, show you how to do that. So I'll show you some things that you're going to need to get started and all the things that I'm going to be using today, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so starting out, we're going to be using some sandpaper. I've got 150 grit as well as a small thing of 220 grit. I have some lacquer thinner. I have boiled linseed oil as well as some ballistol, and we'll get to that at the very end. And it would be good to have you a set of nitrile gloves. You definitely want to use those whenever you're putting some of this stuff on, and definitely when you're messing with the lacquer thinner. And then of course we have our chisels. So I'll kind of show you what I got going here. I have removed my handles from the chisel, and when these come off, they're not broken. So the chisel's meant to sit on this handle and it's meant to come off again, and that's just a higher end chisel, and that's what they're designed to do. I've already sanded these down. Sorry about my rooster, he's pretty loud and obnoxious, but I've sanded these down, and I sanded them down using 100 grit sandpaper first, and then I finished with 220, and that's fine enough to finish those. I was worried at first, let me make sure that you can see that. I was worried at first that the little Stanley emblem was gonna come off, and it doesn't. It's etched in there pretty good, and as long as you don't sand directly over it with much vigor, it'll stay on there. And the boiled linseed oil that we'll apply here in just a minute, it really makes that image pop out there. So transitioning over here to the actual chisels, what I've had them doing is they've been soaking in some lacquer thinner, and I've had them in there for about 2 days. And the reason is because the lacquer thinner does a good job. However, whatever they put on these things it's just a beast to get off. So I've been soaking it for a couple days, and hopefully with some wire brush and some sandpaper application we can get that lacquer off. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of Facebook rants, and I like to rant every once in a while. I don't always like to watch it, but I do want to rant about this for just a second. So this is a lacquer thinner that I ordered online from Amazon, and I didn't pay much attention. It's called Clean Strip, and unfortunately it's the green. Don't order anything that's a green product. And so the reason is printed right here on the back of the can. It says warning, does not work, because it doesn't work. It's just not the same. I don't know what they do. I don't know what they take out of it. Somebody out there that's more intelligent than me on that can fill me in, but whatever it is, it doesn't work. And so I've had a terrible time trying to get the stupid lacquer off of these chisels. And the reason is this lacquer thinner is just a subpar quality product. So I have used gasoline, and I know that you safety Sallies out there say don't use gasoline in an open pail, and I understand that, and I try not to at least when I can, but my granddad used gasoline for years and years and years to clean all of his tools and never had a problem with it. And in well ventilated areas, I don't think you're going to have a big problem. So that's what I use. That's why I got all these things off. So just my little rant, don't order these green products because they don't work. Another alternative to lacquer thinner is acetone. And so if you can go to your paint store, your Home Depot store, whatever, get acetone instead of lacquer thinner, it'll take these off as well. So I've got the boiled linseed oil here. Don't tell my wife I used her good Tupperware. You can get this about anywhere. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make a difference on the brand. It's all pretty good. What's hilarious is I just got finished griping about this particular brand, Clean Strip, and I have another can of it. But the boiled linseed oil isn't the green stuff, and so it doesn't matter. And so you just evenly coat this. I definitely recommend wearing gloves. You don't have to, but I'm going to be working with some other stuff later that definitely is going to need some gloves. So I'll just put them on, and you just coat this, and you don't have to put a lot on it, but just enough to seal the wood. And what I will do is I will put one coat on today, and I'll let them kind of sit and dry. And then I'll come back and I'll put another coat on in about 2 days, and then after that they're pretty good from that point on. And you just kind of set these aside and you let them dry. And the great thing about the linseed oil is it'll soak into the pores of the wood, and it'll actually seal the wood, and it won't allow moisture to get in there, and it just gives a really nice finish to your handles. And it just takes them from the factory look that everybody's going to have, and this process just customizes them a little bit and makes them a little bit different and makes them yours. And I think that's the most important thing, and that's kind of what we're seeking is customization and making it yours. See, here's what I was talking about. That logo really pops out even after sanding it. Logo really pops out with that boiled linseed oil, and so don't worry about the logo going away because it'll stay there pretty good. Oops. Okay, so that's pretty much it for those. I might come back later and wipe the excess off because I got a little bit much on these, but for now I'm just going to set them aside and allow them to soak in that wood. Okay, now for the fun part. We have our chisel sides, and I put the lacquer thinner on them. Like I said, they've been sitting for about 2 days, and you can tell here in the back where some of that's starting to come off, which is good. We definitely want all that to come off. Alright, so what I'm going to do is one at a time, and I just got an old lid here to kind of protect my table. I'm going to take just an old brush, and I'm going to just brush these things down. And the most important parts to get are the back, the entire back, this flat side, and also right here in the front where your bevel is. Those are the most important areas to get. And so these weren't coming off at all with just the lacquer thinner, so added a little gas in there, and that sure worked. That worked a lot. So I'm going to do each one of these. I won't bore you with that particular process, and I'll bring you back whenever we're done, and I'll show you the next step. So I got them out of the lacquer thinner and got them pretty much cleaned off. There's a little bit left on there. So what I'm going to do is take some finer grit sandpaper. I think this is 220, and I'm just going to get on the bevels down here. I'm just going to sand these down to make sure all that lacquer is off there. So when you start doing these, you can tell wherever the lacquer still is. See, it's right around these beveled areas, and my glove got caught there. Right around these beveled areas you can see. But I got it off the front here. And don't worry about all these scratches and dings when you sharpen your chisels. All of that will go away. And actually the next video I make will be me sharpening these, and I'll show you kind of how to do that, how to do it properly, and we'll flatten these back sides and all that. So don't worry about the scratches, they'll come right out. Okay, so I got all these done, and I got the lacquer removed, and the last step today is to put a little bit of oil on these, because if you don't, they will rust on you. You've taken that protective layer off, and they'll definitely rust. So I've got a little, what I use is Pastoral. This is great. This is a great product. It really is. A lot of people use it for their firearms, but it works pretty well in the garage as well. Anything that's metal that needs a little bit of extra protection, you can just take it and wipe those things down, and they'll store just fine, and they won't rust. And that's what we're looking for. I just keep mine in an old tin. This is a, what is it? Oh, it's an oatmeal tin. Anything will work, just as long as can't get dust or air in there or anything like that. And every one of these, just give them a little light coating of that oil, and it'll sure help. Because even the oil in your hands will oxidate this metal, and it'll rust it. And you don't want that on your chisels. So you want to make sure that you just give them a light coating of oil. So those are oiled for today. Put those down. And Pastoral smells great. It's just got a really good smell to it. So that's it for the chisels today. That's all we'll be doing. We'll let those sit out, and we'll allow the boiled linseed oil to soak into the wood handles a little bit. And tomorrow, maybe even this evening, I'll come back and I'll show you the process to get these things sharpened. And then we'll do that, and then you'll have a wonderful set of a good working chisels. So, point of contention. Can you go to your big box store and just buy you a set of get-her-done chisels, sharpen them really well, and work with them? Absolutely. And if you want to do that, by no means am I saying that's wrong. You can go down and you can get a plastic set or a plastic handled set for about 20 bucks compared to $80 or $90 for these. You can definitely do that. And if you're trying to save some money or on a budget or whatever, that's a great alternative. However, there's something, I don't know how to explain it. There's something nice about really knowing your tools, working with your tools, customizing your tools, and it's just special. It's special to hold those things. So this was a gift. I put time into making them unique and mine, and I think that's important. And so with all of the tools that you use, cheapest isn't necessarily the best, and the more you pay for your tools, the more you'll get out of them, and coincidentally, the better you'll treat them. And if you go buy an $80 stiletto hammer, you're going to treat that hammer differently than a $15 hammer that you picked up in a big box store. So quality tools matter, and my dad used to say that there's a couple things that you can't overspend. Number one is education, and number two is your tools. And so if you're going to spend money somewhere, those two things should be where you're concentrating your time. So thank you guys for joining us this morning, and we'll come back as soon as these things are kind of done sitting, and we'll sharpen them up, and I'll show you how to do that in video number 2. Have a great, safe day. God bless you guys.